Welcome to Everything You Need to Know About the Ascension of Humanity, the podcast where ancient wisdom meets modern science and spiritual evolution gets real. I'm Heather, an energy healer, channel, and spiritual coach with Divine Ascension Company. Each week, we're diving deep into the mysteries of human consciousness, spiritual awakening, and the profound transformation happening within us and around us. But here's the thing. We're not doing this with our heads in the clouds. We're bringing neuroscience, psychology, quantum physics, and cutting-edge research to the table alongside meditation, energy work, and timeless spiritual teachings. Because the truth is, the ascension of humanity isn't some far-off cosmic event. It's happening right now in the choices we make, the awareness we cultivate, and the healing we do within ourselves. Whether you're curious about how mindfulness literally rewires your brain, why shadow work is backed by depth psychology, or what coherence between your heart and mind actually means scientifically, you're in the right place. We'll explore practices like breathwork, meditation, and emotional alchemy, not as abstract concepts, but as tangible tools grounded in both spiritual wisdom and scientific understanding. And here's where it gets even better. In our bonus episodes, you'll hear from real people sharing real stories. These are the warriors, the healers, the everyday seekers who've walked through their own darkness and found their light. They'll share their breakthroughs, their struggles, and the resources that actually helped them along the way. Because personal growth isn't a solo journey, and you deserve to know you're not alone. So whether you're just beginning to question the nature of reality, or you're deep in your spiritual practice, this podcast is your companion on the path. It's time to expand, to awaken, and to rise together. Let's begin. Hey guys, welcome back. Have you ever had a moment where something just didn't add up in your mind? Like you had a clock that was off, a gut feeling that you couldn't explain, or maybe a near miss that actually ended up saving you? Well, what if those moments weren't random at all? Today, we're talking about divine signs and synchronicities, which are how your guides communicate. We're going to talk about how most of them have never been human and what that means for the way that they show up in your life. And we're going to get into some real stories, including guidance during an active shooter situation, pre-pandemic intuition that proved to be divine protection, and some weird tech glitches, bringing a whole new way of understanding the nudges that you've been receiving. How do you know that spirit is trying to talk to you? How do you know that your guides are trying to connect? And I think it's actually a lot more simple than people realize. It happens all the time. Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Heather. Thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be talking about this. I actually just wrote an article about synchronicities and some kind of fun tricks that we can give for our guides to allow them to give us more. But maybe we'll jump into that at the end. Let's start at the beginning.
Right.
So, Heather, coincidences, believe in them or not?
No, there's no such thing.
Why?
Because I truly believe that everything happens for a reason. And the things that people perceive as a coincidence, I think is actually just a nudge from your guides, the universe, your higher self, whoever, ancestors, doesn't matter, that's telling you that, hey, look at this, pay attention, you're on the right path, this is important, good job. And they're kind of telling you in their own kind of way.
So, are you saying that it's kind of part of a larger divine timing mechanism?
Absolutely. Everything is.
I tend to agree with you on this.
Because even if it's something like, for example, starting a business or doing something new, and it's something you really want, and you've been trying to figure it out. It's something that you don't really know a lot about. So you're kind of working your way from the ground up, and you've tried this, you've tried that, you've tried this, you've tried that. But then finally, things start to align and things start to work out. I think that has to do with divine timing as well. But it could also be that that one thing that you just tried that you did different is the one piece that needed to fit into place to be successful in this, whatever this, you know, journey looks like. And that is a sign that now you're on the right path. Now you're getting there. You're doing the things. Now it's time to take it to the next level, I guess.
What about for our viewers that maybe aren't quite ready to, excuse me, aren't ready to take it to the next level? They're just still out there like, why do I keep seeing these numbers every now and then, like that repeat or something like that? What's like the most basic version of angel numbers that you can think of?
Most people like, there's memes all over the internet about like, oh, I know everything is, my life is a dumpster fire, but I know everything's going to be okay because I saw 11:11 on the microwave. So the
Yes.
clock is usually the first most common place that people start noticing them. I've noticed them on license plates. I've noticed them on billboards. I've noticed them on like if I'm doing something and there's an address involved or my odometer. I mean, it could be anywhere that you see numbers. Pretty much, it's just about whether, like, how willing you are to pay attention and to notice them and not just brush over it. And um, I think something that we've talked about before about living in the present moment and being mindful of what you're doing rather than focusing your mind elsewhere, you're more um, open and willing to be able to catch those.
For sure. I
And
keep
there's,
forgetting.
go
I
ahead.
keep forgetting. You're the one that's supposed to be asking the questions, not
Oh,
me.
it doesn't matter. Um, so let's talk about those kind of signs, like numbers, angel numbers, whatever you want to call them, are usually the most common one that people talk about. But there's so many other ones. Like, what other ones have you experienced?
Well, let me tell you a story about something I just heard today. And this is coming from a person who is starting to understand angel numbers and synchronicities, but still would tend to lean towards coincidences. And we're gonna go from angel numbers on the clock to active shooter right now. Okay, so the complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Okay.
It was this person's birthday. They were downtown, and it turns out that there were two restaurants with the same name. They were going out for a birthday party, and half the group ended up at one of the restaurants, half the other group ended up downtown. Well, they decided that they're just going to go to this other restaurant at the far side of town, away from downtown. Halfway to the restaurant on the far side of town, her dad calls her and says, "Hey, you're not downtown, are you? There's an active shooter." She's like, "No, we left like 10 minutes ago, right before the shooting started, to go across town to this other restaurant because mysteriously half of our party ended up over there."
Interesting.
And so I think this is a really good thing for people. Let's take a look at living in the present moment. People could be like, "Oh my goodness, this is such an inconvenience. Half of our party ended up over here, half over there," even though they all had the same information, right? It's just that's just the way that it worked out. And oh man, now I got to drive across town. And like, if you got in that bum state one, it could ruin your birthday. Like, who wants that? Just roll with it. Just be like, okay, haha. And then even if you want to have that next elevated conversation with yourself, be like, I wonder what lesson this is teaching me. I wonder what this is putting in play, because everything is normally either teaching you something, putting something in play. Like, there's nothing anymore that I have found that doesn't tease something else up.
Hmm.
Okay. And so I would say this was her guides intervening to help keep her safe in
Absolutely.
a very simple way by a restaurant mix up.
Hmm. All of them, not just her, but all of them for sure.
Exactly. Well, guides talk to each other, right?
Hmm.
Um, I can tell you that sometimes guides get in mischief together.
Yes, that is also true. There is a water cooler on the other side, apparently, that they like to gossip around that I've heard about many times, and none of this surprises me. As above, so below, right?
They
Everybody
say.
wants their tea. So I'm assuming that this person who still leans towards coincidences was the one that told you this story, right?
That's correct.
How can you, and I'm genuinely curious, there's no judgment here, but like, how can you experience something like that, especially something that extreme, like that extreme of an example? How can you experience something like that and not question, like, oh man, I really got out of there in the nick of time? Like, somebody was watching, like, and I know people who go through stuff like this, they tend to be like, oh, my guardian angel's watching over me, blah, blah, blah. But like, whether that's true or not is not the point. The point is, how do you still believe that that was just a coincidence?
Well, let's look at the journey that a lot of us go through to get to a place of divine timing, of synchronicity. Okay. It's not a linear path, and you got to start somewhere. And I'm sure that there were things that happened to us before we had our aha moments, if you will, that were very much synchronicity that we just played off too. So I can give you an example. Before my awakening started about 2 years ago. Like, I mean, it's been going through my whole life, but then there was the out of body experience. It was like that jolt, that shot out of the shotgun that was like, pay attention now.
Hmm.
So before then, like I was aware, I was a median, like I was aware of the other side. Like I just didn't think about it that much. I had life to live. I had work to go to. I had bills to pay. I had companies to build,
All,
right?
all of the important stuff.
Right. And so let's talk about right before COVID. I always loved bringing in new people because we would always joke about Ryan's spidey sense. There are sometimes I would make a decision and I would just, my staff would look at me like, that's counterintuitive, the decision you're making. And they're like, is he okay? Like, is he lost his mind? And I look at him, I'm like, it's just my spidey sense. It's going to be fine. And it was always fine. 2 months before COVID hit, we never carried an inventory. I ran an IT company. We sold computers, never carried an inventory. And I was like, we need to carry an inventory. And so I started ordering stuff. We had no processes in place for this. We had no shelves to put it on. Just had boxes in a storeroom full of computers and stuff. And everybody's like, what is he doing? COVID hit. We couldn't get any more computers.
Mm.
But we were still able to run our business because we had inventory. I don't know where that came from. I just woke up one day and was like, we need inventory. Well, now I know, like, it was my guides, right? Like, that was part of my path, was to be able to help people get through their COVID situation.
Hmm.
Um, and so I see this as a plug. Okay. If you pay attention to synchronicities for no other reason, it can make you more money, because there's going to be some hardcore business people out there that are like, I won't do it for me, but I'll do it to make more money. Yeah, the motivations are suspect, but at the end of the day, you took a step, and a win is a win.
Right. It's a good stepping stone for sure. It's a good baby step, first step. That's all it takes, right? It's that first step.
Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've definitely had experiences like that. Like, and I've never believed in coincidences. I've always, since I was little, always believed that everything happened for a reason. I've always said that, like, I live my life with no regrets, and I've been through a lot of stuff. I made a lot of mistakes, if you want to call them that. I don't, but I've been through a lot, and I still live. with no regrets because everything is a learning opportunity. Everything is a chance to grow. And I think that kind of ties along with the same thing because if you look at things that way, it, I mean, it all kind of intertwines, right? But yeah, no coincidences. I think there's a reason for everything. And it took me some time to train myself to put words to it, the signs and synchronicities, but there was always kind of a inner knowing that, and you can call it intuition, you can call it spidey sense, you can call it your guides nudging you, whatever. That kind of, I don't know, I knew there was something more behind it. And yeah, going through the journey of awakening and finding my spiritual self and figuring out what resonated and what made sense to me kind of brought me to that point of putting a word to it. But I mean, if you, just like anything else, if you listen to your intuition and you're like, okay, like you made the conscious choice to pay attention to your spidey sense and it worked out in your favor, and it usually does. But people, I feel like, have a tendency to second guess things and kind of question things, which don't get me wrong, questioning things is good, but not when it comes to yourself and your intuition. And I think, I don't know, I think if people were more trusting and more confident, and I'm speaking generally here because I know that that alone is a journey, it's a process to get there. It took me a while to get there, but I think people don't give themselves enough credit for the things that they do subconsciously see and experience. And I hope that through this podcast, through my business, through whatever, that I can help people open their eyes to these things because there's so many amazing, beautiful things about divine timing and the divine tapestry and how things kind of play out. And there really is so much beauty in it, regardless of what it looks like on the surface. And seeing those signs was a big stepping stone for me in reaching that next level from like researching and finding out what resonated to actually like jumping in and starting to experience communicating with my guides and picking up on my intuition better. And I truly believe that paying attention to those signs like angel numbers, and that escalated into more signs for me, but noticing it the first time and being like, okay, 11:11 on the microwave, this is going to be a great day. Thank you, universe. I see you, I hear you. Thank you for showing me a sign that I'm on the right path, regardless of your thoughts on the angel numbers and if they have different meanings. It all comes down to, here's a sign, you're on the right path, keep doing what you're doing, good job. And then once I saw that and I said it out loud and I recognized it for what it was and gave thanks for that, then I started seeing more and more and more. And it, like I said, it started with the clock and the time. And then it started when I still lived in Pennsylvania. I was working at a casino, and I was struggling really badly with working at a job that I was completely that was out of alignment with my path and who I was, but it was really good money. So I was going to this job and I would be thinking about things and reflecting and stuff on my drive. And me and my guide started playing this game. It was the license plate game. So my initials are HLZ. So as I was driving, I would occasionally I would look at a license plate, and I wasn't staring at all of them to, increase the probability of seeing these license plates. But every once in a while, just like as you look at the clock, I would randomly look at license plates, and every time I would see my initials, regardless of the order that they were in, I would know that I was one step closer on my path. And eventually, believe it or not, the first time I saw my initials actually in the right order was the day I was really, really sick. Oh, I was so sick. And I wanted to go to urgent care, but I didn't want to go on antibiotics again because I had just gotten off antibiotics for something else, and I recognized the implications of continuously taking them. And but I was so sick. I was like, man, I don't know how much more of this I can deal with. And I was at my friend's house helping him do something, and I was like, all right, I had tried to go to urgent care earlier that day, but it was so busy and I had to go do something. I was like, I'm gonna come back later. And on my way back the second time after I left my friend's house, I was like, all right, I ended up accidentally taking the wrong exit. So I had to backtrack. My GPS didn't like update in time, which is all of these are signs. You'll notice a pattern here that kept me away from urgent care. But as I was driving, I was like, all right, should I go or should I not go? And I saw that license plate for the very first time with my initials in the right order. And I was like, all right, I'm not going. But the signs had been pointing me in that direction all day with the first time I went and it was really busy. And then taking the wrong exit. Like these are all signs that I noticed. But again, like people are like, okay, I need a signier sign. Give me a signier sign. And it's not necessary, but that also comes back to that trust and that, believing that you're seeing the sign and it is what it is. And then so after the license plate game, then I started seeing feathers everywhere. And then I started seeing crows everywhere. And all of these have significant meanings from the other side. And then I would find coins places. So there's so many different ways that spirit can communicate with you. You just have to f- open yourself up to see them. And once you see them, recognize them, thank them, and show them that you're paying attention, you'll start seeing them everywhere and they're always there. It's just that your mind is usually preoccupied with other things that you gloss over it and you don't see them. So that was a really cool little journey through those experiences for me.
And I think the more that you start paying attention to them, I think that the more your guides talk to you.
Hmm.
And by the way, your guides are fun. They're like, they can be your best friend that never leaves. They're always there with you. And a lot of them have senses of humor. They're funny and they joke around and they'll play tricks on you. And sometimes you get mad at them for playing tricks on you, but they don't really care because you're stuck with them because they're your guides.
Yeah. And I think that you and your guides have built this relationship over time where they feel comfortable doing that for you and the tricks and stuff. I think that the guides, because I don't want to like scare people off. I Some people don't like that kind of stuff. I think the guides cater to who you are as a person. So if you wouldn't handle that well or you wouldn't be receptive to those kind of pranks and stuff, they're not going to do that. They're going to be more catered because they're your guides. They're your individual guides for this lifetime to help you navigate the matrix, your reality, all the things. And they're going to do that in a way that is perfect for you. And you and your guides have that relationship because they weren't like that in the very beginning, right?
No, no, no. They thought they needed to come through all wrath of Gaudi.
Yeah.
And I told them in very short order that, like, this isn't going to fly and you can just go away now if this is how you're going to be. And so they didn't change immediately, but it's just like kind of raising a super smart kid. They always say that the smart ones are hard to raise. That's what I found raising my guides was like, because you're learning on both sides. I think a lot of people think like, oh God, my guides are omnipotent. They know everything. That's not true.
Nope.
That's not true at all. They know your path. They know how to nudge you and keep you on your path. Most times they don't know what it's like to be human. Most guides that I have met have never been human, don't want to be human.
Hmm.
That I think out of all the things I've learned, that's probably come as the biggest shock to me. Like, because most people out there right now are thinking, like, well, how can they be guides? Well, they can be, they are. Their job is to keep you on your path, but your job is to navigate humanity while doing it.
Yeah. And it's something that I try to keep in mind because a lot of the energies that we do talk to who are maybe not personal spirit guides, but are guides in some fashion, the angels, extraterrestrials, higher dimensional beings, whatever, like they're all involved in some sort of guidance for humanity. And yeah, most of them have not been human, but you have to remember that, like you said, there is a learning process on both sides of the veil. So just as we're here incarnated to have soul growth and to learn these lessons and to elevate our, what do you want to call it? Our consciousness, um, they're doing the same thing on the other side. So even I think maybe, and I've never asked this, I don't know, maybe it's by design that way that they haven't been human because you're just as they're guiding you, you're also teaching them about the human condition, about the subtleties of emotions and a train of thought and all of these processes and structures that we have that they're like, I don't understand. Like there was a energy that we talked to the other day that we were talking about second guessing your intuition. And they're like, why would you do that? Like, if you think you're channeling and you think you've connected to an energy and you start saying the words, like, why would you second guess yourself? Like, that concept of self doubt was so foreign to them. They understood that it was part of the human condition, but the actual mechanics of it, why it happens, they were just like, why would you second guess yourself? Like, just trust it, go with it.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing that they just don't get on the other side is the doubt. They don't understand why we do that at all. Like,
But that's part of
and
the earth experience, though. Part of that forgetting and that experience of separation and the society that we've been kind of cultivated as a human in up until this point has kind of catered to that self-doubt. And that's part of the experience of going through this journey of awakening and remembering who you are and getting over that hurdle because self-doubt alone is a lesson, right? It's an experience, it's a human experience because they don't have that on the other side. They don't have that in higher dimensions. It's kind of something that goes hand in hand with that forgetting. And so to be able to experience that self-doubt, which most people can't, most energies can't say that they've ever experienced, is another like notch on your belt for, hey, here's a gold star. You got through this thing on Earth. Good for you. Yay, soul growth. So even though it's detrimental in many ways, it's also an extremely great opportunity for learning and growing as a being.
well, that's why we're all here on Earth. Learn and grow, rinse and repeat.
Don't sound so excited about it, please.
I have my excited moments.
I know we all do. It is hard. And there are many beings who we've asked if they've ever been human, and they pretty much just straight up laugh in our face. They're like, no, why would I do that? And that's another thing that I want people to realize as they learn that not only did we choose our lives before we got here, but we chose to be here. We chose to take that earth experience. We chose to have that forgetting, that separation, to come down here to this hard school. And a lot of energies are not willing or prepared to do that. So the fact that you chose to be here, the fact that you came here, and the fact that you're still here and didn't take an easy exit point and give up, the fact that you are still here says a lot about who you are as an eternal being. Because that alone is such an accomplishment that I don't think people realize how profound that is.
Yeah, this isn't really the kindergarten school. This is the PhD school on soul growth.
Yeah.
And you don't get into the PhD program by accident. Like, you're here for a reason.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And finding out what that reason is, because we all have a path, we all have a purpose, is kind of where that what the signs and synchronicities kind of helps you begin that journey. It's navigating through all of the noise here, all of the things that you have to go through in any given day that your guides can put in your path to kind of nudge you in the right direction to figure out how to live that life in alignment, to figure out what your path and your purpose is and the reason why you're here. Because we're all here for something. We're all here for a reason that's going to leave this planet and humanity in a better place than where we found it, right? That's kind of the whole point, especially right now with the ascension. So these signs are a really good way to start kind of that journey of figuring out who you are, why you're here, what your purpose is for life, and what's going to bring you the most joy and happiness, right?
Mm-hmm. For sure. What other points do you want to make in this podcast today?
I think we kind of covered like what they are. I want to hear more about your article now that we've kind of dove
Oh,
into.
yeah, this is super fun.
Yeah.
So, I'm a big fan of let's keep this simple, let's keep it fun, and let's not take ourselves too seriously. Okay. And so, let's talk about the clock on your stove or your VCR or some appliance in your
Oh,
house.
wow, you're really dating yourself now with a VCR.
I know, my VCR clock.
I actually still have a VCR if it makes you feel better.
Mine's in the closet. So the clock on the stove, one day, this started out of laziness. I'm not going to take any existential credit for this. Like, I just didn't reset it. We had a power outage. Um, the clock in the kitchen that I normally use is on battery. The one on the stove runs on the electricity. So when it got reset, I never reset. And it wasn't like 10 minutes off. I have no idea how far off it is. It's not even close. You want to make sure that it doesn't, you can't do the math and figure out what time it actually is. And so what I started noticing was from glancing at this clock, I would get more synchronicities. I would get more 1111s, 555s, 333s. And in the beginning, I didn't think too much about it. I just always said, hey, guys, thank you. Appreciate that. I noticed it. And then after a couple of weeks, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm getting way more of these than I used to. And then it dawned on me. I gave them a toy.
Mm-hmm.
I gave my guides, I gave the universe a toy to play with because instead of them waiting for like that divine tapestry to work out so that I would be having this thought on exactly 1111, which comes twice a day. Well, they could mess with this clock and I would never know because I didn't have any expectations on that time. I didn't have any expectations on that clock. And so by giving them a clock that was wrong that I saw frequently, I gave them another channel by which to communicate with me.
Mm-hmm. And I think,
Simple.
yeah, and I think the point that you don't have any clue what time, like how far off it is or what time it's set at, like they can mess with it and they can change it and you can get 11 5 times a day. And yeah,
Yeah.
that might be a little extreme because you're gonna be like, hey, wait a minute. But we know, like you and I know that they can mess with technology. They've messed with my alarm before and they didn't fix it properly. And I had to suffer those consequences till I figured out what they did. I had to go through my settings on my phone and figure out why, when I was resetting my alarm, it was still very, very quiet because they messed with my alarm. Instead of just turning it off for that day, they turned the volume down. But it wasn't just the volume for that alarm, it was the volume for the whole system of my phone. So even though I set a brand new alarm, it was still so quiet I couldn't hear it. And so we know that they can mess with things. So by not knowing the difference of that where that clock is randomly set at and what time it actually is, you can't keep track of whether they're messing with it or not. So that makes it a lot more fun for them, I think.
Well, yes. And I do believe there's certain like guidelines or rules that we've all agreed to in this school that the guides aren't supposed. So this is kind of a loophole for your guides,
Hmm.
right? Like it's kind of like, guides, you're not actually breaking anything because I already broke it and am leaving it broken and don't remember how broken it is.
Hmm.
So I won't know.
Right. And to be fair, with the whole alarm thing, like they weren't crossing any lines of free will because it had to do with our meditation routine, and there was that permission there for whatever needed to happen for that day, whatever. So there's also like that free will thing too. Like they're not going to just mess with your technology just to mess with your technology, unless it's like having to buy a brand new podcast microphone because your vibration is so high that it messes with the frequencies. But that's more of a um
That just happens. And
yeah.
for those of you who are noticing this, you're going to end up with all wired microphones and everything because as you try to record meditations and higher vibrations, it screws with the audio.
Bluetooth does not work very well.
No.
I still have issues with my brand new Bose top of the line headphones sometimes. But yeah, so that's a really interesting tool and perspective on allowing the opportunity for those signs to come through. I really like that idea. That's really cool.
Go.
Awesome. Do you have anything else that you would like to add about signs and synchronicity?
They're not coincidences. You're not alone. You're not crazy. Yes, they're talking to you. Listen.
Hmm. So I think the burning question that remains is, would you like to bring the elders through to say anything about this?
You know, they're actually really quiet tonight.
Oh, I think that might be a first when it comes to giving them a platform to speak on.
I know. They're kind of like not here at the moment.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I
Okay.
don't know.
Well,
They didn't leave an out of office sign as to where they went.
maybe we just covered the topic so thoroughly and so well that they just, for once in their life, don't have anything to add.
There you go. I think that's it.
Okay, I'll go with that answer. That's fine. I'll take that as a win. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show again. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy these conversations.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Of course. And I'm sure we will hear from you again soon.
Sounds good. Look forward to it.
Awesome.